Hey guys, still there. Today, World of Warships, not a British cruiser, as you may have been expecting, but I found the British cruisers just not to be that good. I haven't had any really good games with them. I'm a tier 5, so this one instead is going to be about the tier 7 Russian cruiser slash destroyer. It is in destroyer line, but sometimes you think that it handles more like a cruiser. This is the Kiev, and this is the Two Brothers map. It's the standard version of the Two Brothers map, so there's no capture zones that need capturing, which, by the way, is not something that Russian destroyers excel at. Russian destroyers are not very stealthy. Detectability range of 8.7, meaning that whereas a US destroyer and a Japanese destroyer can quite easily and sneakily move into a capture zone, Russian destroyers just can't. So if you have a Russian destroyer on your team, don't expect him to perform the same duties as the US and the IGN destroyers do, because they're simply a whole different ship. Anyway, this time around I have the entire team moving off to the right side. And normally I would follow them, but this time I decided to be a bit more adventurous. The Kiev is outstanding at skirmishing, keeping enemies at range, shooting them, making sure they turn around, putting them on fire, dodging, weaving, making sure you don't get hit. And seeing as today is the 73rd anniversary, I believe, of the Battle of Samar, which is where the tin cans actually engaged the IGN force, the IGN center force, this is more or less a tribute to that. And I'm recording this video a day early, so it is Tuesday 25th of October, and thereby the 73rd anniversary. As mentioned, completely alone, and I'm already spotting the first couple of ships. It's two Omahas. Very, very easy pickings. Now, I will not be dealing too much with firing armor penetration at them, because I need to be keeping my head at maneuverability and not getting hit. Firing AP at them or closing the short range and then firing AP at them is not my priority. I just want to stay alive so I can keep this flank contested. I just want to keep these guys at bay. Now the Omaha is already firing a couple of AP rounds at me, and as you can see, and this is more obvious on the minimap than anywhere else, I'm continuing to dodge and weave, continuing to keep maneuvering. And as such, I'm already putting one Omaha on fire, keeping one other Omaha busy, as well as a Murmansk, which, let's face it, is basically a third Omaha. Continuing to keep more or less outside their weapons range, and by doing so, I make sure that they have to keep closing, but I determine, or I dictate when the battle is going to take place, where I'm going to be firing at, and when I can move away. Also spotted a Scharnhorst, so I mentioned in chat that we have 4 ships on my flank. Means only 8 on theirs, and since we have 11 ships on that end, we should be able to do quite a significant amount of damage. For now I'm continuing to close on the enemy ships, and with turrets that rotate pretty rapidly, with most of my turrets on the bow here, 2 double barrel turrets, 1 on the stern, I have most of my firepower up front anyway. There's 1 New York, so that's 5 enemy ships on this end, meaning it's an 11 versus 7 on the right flank. My team should be able to handle that. I continue to pummel the weakened US cruiser here, the Omaha. It's taking a bit of damage, not that much yet. I take my first hit, but fortunately it didn't actually damage me at all. No damaged modules, no loss of hit points, nothing. Of note here is that I keep these guys at 11 clicks range. I want to make sure that I don't get hit. I did take a small hit there, he put me on fire. And what I'm basically doing here is playing whack-a-mole. I'm trying to get a couple of hits on every ship so that it's forced to maneuver and possibly maneuver away from me, so that I have the time to fall back a bit more or dodge their fire. So I'm keeping them basically at the maximum firing range, which without the advanced firing training for me is a range of 12.3 clicks. With the cruisers off to the side, they seemingly don't appear too confident. I can now focus my attention on the other ships. Once again, I make my way towards the enemy ships, a bit of skirmishing. I'm not doing a ton of damage, but at least these ships are not heading directly for our cap, and that's the important part here. Because the cap is completely undefended with the entire enemy team off to the other side. Now, if you don't get the reference to the Battle of Samar, it was not, in fact, a Russian destroyer that was fighting that battle. It was a smaller task force of US destroyers, as well as a couple of US, I believe, escort carriers, so the smaller ones. They held off the, or at least an element of the Japanese center force, which, among other ships, consisted of Yamato. Now, going up against Yamato with a destroyer, and I believe there were Fletchers in that type, it's not going to go down very well, but these guys did an amazing job and held them off for a long time. And holding off ships for a long time is exactly what I'm doing in this gameplay. I won't be doing a ton of damage, but mostly keeping them at bay so that these ships are not imposing on the cap. My team has the chance to inflict a lot of damage onto the enemy team, then come back, so that all their firepower is going to be concentrated on these ships as well. Here's one of the first Omahas that I engaged. A bit of damage going in. And once again, I should have switched to armor penetration. At this range, with a flat side, I absolutely should have. But I was too busy keeping my ship alive. New York keeps pushing forward. This guy has already taken a bit of damage and used his repair ability, so if I can put him on fire again, then that'd be wonderful. Shells fly over the bridge, unfortunately. And I believe the second salvo is indeed going to actually do something. I do have Demolition Expert on my Kiev, which does help with putting fires. And there's the New York. It's continuing to burn. So right now I don't have to worry about him too much. He will continue to close, but that's alright. 10.6 kilometers is still very comfortable for me as an engagement distance. Whereas he still doesn't really have the accuracy or the guns that are accurate enough to hit me, so I'm not particularly worried. Interestingly, 2 cruisers have disengaged. One Omaha and a Murmansk have decided to disengage from the battle, and by doing such, they have abandoned the Scharnhorst and the other Omaha and the New York here, so that I only have to worry about 3 ships now. Now, this Omaha is getting a bit overly excited, so I want to keep this guy at range, putting a bit more fire into him and basically forcing him to turn around. My torpedoes are no good. They only have a range of about 4 clicks, so they're basically suicide weapons, or last resort weapons. And my first priority is to keep firing on this Omaha. I want this guy to disengage because he has rapid fire guns, which with their HE do a lot of damage to my ship. So he's the biggest threat here. Continuing to fire. No fires yet on this Omaha yet, but there it is. 1 fire started. He doesn't put it out yet, so he might not have the capability of doing so. He may have used his repair ability already. I'm hoping to set a second fire. There's the damage repair. He put out the fire. And once again, I should have used armor penetration. It would have done a lot more damage. Omaha continues to turn. I'm not exactly sure what the Scharnhorst is up to, but he's not engaging me. And the New York is getting a bit problematic. You can see it there behind me. It's continuing to push into the cap. But we have multiple battleships, Gneisenau, Fuso, and Arizona, which are about to help me out with these ships. I'm actually requesting support in chat now because the Scharnhorst especially is going to take a bit more time to burn down. For now though, the Omaha seems to be trying to reconsider his decision. He's not really pushing that hard anymore, but he's getting awfully close. I'm trying to distance myself from this ship a bit more. Nice salvos going in on the Scharnhorst, but I really want to put this guy on fire, because that is where most of my damage is going to come from. With these ships coming so close, I decided to pop the speed boost, make sure I put a bit more distance between me and the enemy ships, because they are continuing to get closer and getting more accurate, and I'm only at 7,800 hit points. I'd prefer to keep it that way and not get hit. In the meanwhile, the New York has pushed up so far that he's actually threatening the cap. With my bow turrets turning around, I send a few shells into him, then switch back to the other ship. There we go. Base reset. Put the Omaha on fire, and this way I'm continuing to spread out my fire, but the Omaha continues to close. Range 7.5. The Scharnhorst is also continuing to close, but is not really too effective. I don't think he fired on me so far. Continuing to do damage. There's an HE salvo mixed with an AP salvo, which completely misses the ship. Turn around. That was a salvo from the Scharnhorst. New York continues to push in. So once again, I fire a small salvo at him, hoping to put him on fire or just to neutralize him. There we go. He's on fire. So I'm going to continue to farm damage from both the burning Omaha and the burning New York. Currently 52,000. And for some reason, the Scharnhorst is disengaging. I think that he's getting a bit overwhelmed with having to face off against 3 enemy battleships. And I gotta say, so far, my gamble has paid off very, very nicely. We have lost only 2 ships so far, against the enemy who have lost 5 ships and are about to lose a few more. So just keeping these guys at bay, 1 lonely destroyer against 5 enemy ships. You can just keep them at bay, so long as you pretend to be a bigger ship than you actually are. As long as you have a big mouth, as I would like to call it, you can keep these guys away. Now the Omaha and the Scharnhorst have both disengaged. Omaha is still burning, and I'm not sure, but I believe he puts out the fire just in time as he's about to burn up. My team is continuing to capture the base. We are now 4 ships up as far as the enemy is concerned. Even the Leander is doing quite well, I believe. I got a York here with me, I got an Arizona, a Fuso, and at longer range another New York who's pushing towards the enemy cap. The enemy fleet is forced to stay at their own area. The Arizona takes out the Omaha, giving me the time to continue firing at the Arizona, and hopefully, once again, putting him on fire. Now 12 kilometers is perfectly capable for this ship to do damage, but I like to get a bit closer. A bit closer means a bit more accurate. Although with the Scharnhorst, it does have a decent secondary armament. I don't want to get too close. Salvo's going in, 1500. At this point I unfortunately get rammed by the York. I wasn't quite paying attention to that, so I take responsibility for the ram. Firing AP salvos into this guy now, going for the superstructure and trying to get a bit of damage in. Not as much as I'd hoped though. 1500, 750, it's really low as far as the damage goes. Someone else put him on fire, and this game is basically up. The enemy has pushed on 2 different flanks with a pretty much spread out force. It's not really gotten them anything. Continuing to put damage into the Scharnhorst, currently at 70,000 damage. A little bit on the low end for some salvos, 264. There's another 528. That's when I shoot into the island, of course. And with quite a few ships of our team engaging the enemy cap, we are basically going to cap it out pretty quickly. 264. Scharnhorst is taking a lot of fire from these battleships, and that's the end of the game. There we go. This is the result screen. Almost 74,000 damage done. It's not the most damage that I've done in the Kiev so far, but that was not the aim of this video. I wanted to show you guys how effective it can be to just have one skirmishing destroyer hold off a significantly superior force, which, if you continue to do damage to them, even though it's not lethal, it does keep them at bay, and it does keep them outside of the cap, because if those Omahas would just kept steaming towards my ship, they would have easily overwhelmed me. Team score put me on the top of the list. There was not a ton of XP to be had, as we mostly capped out the enemy team, and continued to destroy so many ships that before the cap counter ran out, the enemy team was out of tickets. So 1244 base XP. Detailed report, you can see I spread out my damage quite nicely over the New York, the Omaha and the Scharnhorst, with a bit more damage towards the other Omaha, only 6,800. And that was the Omaha that disengaged and that went to the other side of the cap, or that went back to base. And for credits and XP, 121,000. It's not a massively profitable game, but it was really nice for my commander. I still have a couple of Dragon flags, I have some Zulu Hotel flags, and with that I almost gained 10,000 XP for my commander. So, next time you find yourself alone on a flank as a destroyer, don't despair, you can actually do quite a bit of delaying, and I was fighting a massive delaying action here until the rest of the fleet was done disengaging with the enemy and killing off most of the enemy team. So, hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. If you want to game up with me, or if you want to division up with me on World of Warships, I'm on the EU server. Add me at Stealth17 and I'll be happy to join you in a division. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more videos.